Hi, and welcome to the Intraday Pullbacks strategy update video for June 2017. So let's begin with why I'm doing this video. I have been trading the intraday pullbacks for a number of years, and a couple of years ago I created the videos that you have on the Stock Scores Education Center on how to use TradeStation to identify opportunities with this strategy and also the superhero strategy. And then also a specific video on the intraday pullbacks in terms of the rules and how to find it. Well, I'm always trying to improve my strategies, improve my processes, coming up with better indicators for TradeStation, and it's time that I provide a little update on what I have done in terms of improvements over the last little while. So this video is a sort of expansion on the videos that you find in the Stock Scores Education Center. It's just bringing you up to date on the latest things that I'm doing. You will find some changes in the indicators. I don't really use the wave up or wave down. I've replaced that with the pivot trend line video, which I'll show you in a moment. And the processes are a little better. The rules are slightly altered, but not really. It's the same basic concept. We just get a little fussier and a little more efficient. So in addition to what I just talked about, I'm going to show you how to import the indicators into TradeStation. We're going to set up the TradeStation workspace, and then I'll just briefly go through the rules and the process for identifying these intraday pullback plays. You can also use the same workspace for superheroes. It's more or less the same concept. It's just the pattern is a little bit different, but other than that, the intraday pullbacks and superheroes are very similar strategies. So let's jump into TradeStation. I've got here the workspace that we're going to work with, and I'll explain what all of these windows are. But the first thing you need to do is import the indicators into TradeStation. To do that, you're going to go File, Import, Export, Easy Language. But you have to have the file first. So if you go to the email that I provide for you, Stock Scores Active Indicator, TradeStation Indicators, Active Trader, sorry, you will see there a link to download the Stock Scores indicators for TradeStation. So there's 7 steps here to downloading them. First, you're going to save the file to your desktop or some other folder on your computer where you can find them. Once you've found that or downloaded that file, you need to unzip it so that you can import the file into TradeStation. So you're going to right mouse click on the file name and select Extract All. Before you double click on any of those files, you need to open and log into TradeStation. And of course, this whole process assumes that you are using TradeStation. You don't have to. You could subscribe to the Active Trader live service that we have where I do that work for you. You may adapt the processes to another platform, something like TC2000 or NinjaTrader. You won't be able to use my indicators specifically because they only work with TradeStation. I don't have a way to create them for these other platforms, but not everyone wants to incur the cost of TradeStation or learn how to use it. So you can use other file or other programs. I sort of caution against it because I think for what TradeStation costs, you also generate a lot more value in terms of your ability to find winning stocks quicker. But maybe you don't want to use any platform. You just want to use your broker's platform and rely on me to provide the watch list. And of course, that's what we do with Active Trader Live. So I digress a little bit. So we're going to open and log into TradeStation. You're going to select File, Import, Export, Easy Language. Find that Easy Language file, that one that you downloaded and unzipped on your hard drive, and click Next. And then just tell it where you want to save those indicators, either in the My Work folder in TradeStation, or perhaps you want to have a specific place on your computer where you will store my TradeStation indicators. Now, one other step which isn't always so clear, and if you don't do this, it might not work right, is you need to go into Easy Language. So go to the Trading Apps pullout, click on it, and there's the Easy Language. Click on that. And once you have Easy Language open, you can go File, Verify All, and it will do a verification process on every indicator. Now, I'm not going to do it now because it takes a couple of minutes for it to run. But if you don't do that, you may find that some of my indicators won't be usable in TradeStation. It'll say this indicator is not verified. And if you try to verify just one indicator at a time, it doesn't really work. So you have to do that File, Verify All, but do that from the Easy Language editor, which you get to by going to the Trading Apps, Easy Language. Click on that, and that'll allow you to do that. Once you do that, you're going to have all of these indicators in TradeStation, available to you in TradeStation. And what I'm going to show you now is how to set them all up on the chart. Now, of course, when you start TradeStation, you have a blank canvas. It would look, if I wanted to go File, New, Workspace, I've got this blank canvas. And I can then right mouse click and go New. Oh, sorry, I don't want to do that. You want to go to your Trading Apps folder, and you would select a new chart or a new radar screen, that sort of thing, a scanner window. So if I select on Scanner, there I've got a scanner window, okay, and I can size it. I can move it around, that sort of thing. Now, one of the things that I cannot send to you, because it doesn't work with TradeStation, is the actual scans that you're going to use. So I use for these strategies the gainer scan and the loser scan. And I would love to send those to you so you don't have to prepare them, but it just doesn't work. So let's show you now how to do that. If you want to insert a new scan, just go Insert and give it a name. So we could call this Gainers. I've already got one called Gainers, so we'll call this Gainers 2. And go Next. And then you have to start telling it what to do. So you say, I want to look at all stocks. This is the symbol universe area. Click on Next. And then you start adding criteria. Now I'm going to just cancel out of this and just go to the gainer scan and go Format, so you can see what the criteria are. Now it's a little small and hard to read. I'm on a laptop that's very high resolution, so hopefully you can see the detail. But the criteria are that you want last price greater than 50 cents, volume today in the top number 2,000, which means the 2,000 most active by volume, and then percent change for the day greater than 0.5%. So we want stocks that are making moves up, that are quite liquid in this scan. So that's all you have for the gainers. The losers is essentially the same, but flipped upside down. The only difference is we we look for stocks greater than $1. Probably better to make that greater than $5, because you can't short stocks under $5. Some brokers will let you do 3, so I'll let you decide what dollar value you want. I would recommend at least 3 or perhaps $5. Volume today, same thing, greater than 2,000. And then for the percentage change one day, you want less than minus 0.5%, less than minus 0.5. All right, so that's your scanner window, and that's the window that you see right here. Now then I've got here 4 different radar screen windows. So to create a radar screen window, just go into Trading Apps and go Radar Screen, and you'll get a window that looks like this, and we're going to add in our own columns. So if I right mouse click and go Format All Analysis Techniques, it'll take a moment and this window will come up, and I can move things off of here that I don't want, like bid, ask, high, low, volume today. I don't need any of those. And then I can add in the indicators that I do want. So let's jump back into this window where we've got it all built already. And what you can see on this first radar screen is that all we look for on this one is symbol, interval, last, net change, net percent change, and trades. Okay, we're going to use this just to eliminate those that aren't going to be liquid enough. Now the next one I want you to build, and again, create a new radar screen, get rid of most of the indicators. The only one that you're going to keep on is net percent change, although even that you don't really need. And we're just going to add in two iterations of the trades threshold indicator. You could add in 3 or 4. What the trades threshold does is it tells you what number of trades the stock has to trade as of now to get to whatever the threshold is. So what you want to do is right mouse click, go Insert Analysis Technique, go find the trades threshold on your list. I don't want to waste a lot of time looking for it, but it's probably right there, trades threshold. You can see I've got old versions of it as well. And I would import 2 of those, okay? Because when we're buying, we want a minimum threshold of 10,000 trades a day. When we're short selling, we want a minimum of 15,000 trades a day. So I import 1 of each, and then you have to format each one. So I'm going to right mouse click on this and go Format Trades Threshold. And this is where you're going to enter in the number of trades that you want for it to judge on. So for this particular one here, I want 10,000. I don't know why it's not. Let me try this again. Just takes a moment for the window to come up. I'm not sure why, but it always is like that. So there you see number of trades. I've got that set to 10,000. Now you'll see also I have significance look back. You don't need to do anything with that. However, time offset is something you may have to work with. if your computer is not on stock market time, so stock market time is Eastern time, let's say you're in the Mountain time zone, that's 2 zones away from Eastern time, just put a 2 in there. If you're in the Pacific time zone, enter 3. So you want to enter in a number that is represents how many time zones away from, how many hours away you are from Eastern time. The reason we do that is because it looks at the time of day and it uses a multiplier to extrapolate volume, and it uses Eastern time. You can see at 9:31 it uses this multiplier. But if you're in the Pacific time zone and your computer is set to Pacific time, then you need to tell it to adjust the time by 3 hours. Now, you can be in the Pacific time zone. If your computer is set to Eastern time, then you don't need to use that time offset. You just leave it as is. That's what I do. I live in the Pacific time zone, but my computer is set to the Eastern time zone, so I just keep mine at 0. Okay. If you look at this one here, you'll see that I've got the trades threshold set to 15,000 when it format window comes up here. So there you see number of trades set to 15,000. Now what this does, and then you just enter any old symbol, doesn't matter. I use SPY because I like to watch it anyway. So you enter in a symbol, one symbol's fine, enter in SPY, and during the trading day, it will tell you what the number of trades needs to be as of right now to get to 10,000 trades a day or to get to 15,000 trades a day. All right, so that's why we use it. Now, the market is closed as I do this video, and so it just has 10,000, 15,000 because it's after the market closed. But if this were, 10 o'clock in the morning, it might say something like 1,340 trades or 1,980 trades is what the current number of trades needs to be in order to get to that threshold. All right, that's what we use it for, because when we're doing our market scanning process, we need to filter these, and I'll show you that in a moment when we do the process. Now, the next window you're going to build, another radar screen window. On this one, you're going to use the volume abnormal test and the expected volume. Now, you could actually get away with just using one or the other. What we want to do is look for abnormal stocks as one way to put stocks on our watch list. And so we can use the expected abnormal volume and use a value of 1 or higher, or even higher than that. You could have 2 or higher. The higher the number, the more abnormal the stock is. I tend to use 1 and then make a little judgment when I look at the chart to see if it looks abnormal, but you'll see why we do that in a moment. And the final radar screen window is the one that calculates for action candles. So I'm going to enter in just one symbol here. You can see that this is set to the 13-minute interval, and I have put in the following indicators: trades, action candle, let's expand that, action candle input, and then action candle bearish input, and then another action candle input, but this one looks back 1 candle, and action candle bearish input as well. Now if I right mouse click on this and go to format, what you're going to see, sorry, I gotta click in the right spot. Why isn't it, action candle, action candle 1, I've made a mistake. I shouldn't have action candle 1, I should have action candle input. This is an old version of the indicator. So if I go into action candle input, which is the version you have, you can enter in a look back. So you want one of these to set to 0. Don't worry about changing the price threshold or volume threshold. Leave those as they are. And then you want a second iteration of that, which would be action candle input with a little bracket 2 beside it. And on that one, you want to put 1. What that means is that it looks back 1 candle to see if it is an action candle. And then you've got the same concept for bearish. So this one you'll see is set to 0. Okay. And then this one is set to, this version here is set to 1 look back. All right, this will become a little more clear when we go through the process. All right, so those are our radar screens. And again, the video I'm doing here is sort of expands on the other TradeStation videos that are in the Stock Scorers Education Center. I go through those a little more slowly to explain the process for setting this up. So I recommend that you start with those. Just realize that we've made some tweaks, which is what this video is all about. Now, the final thing we need to do is set up 3 charts. So again, if I'm in a workspace and I go into trading apps, I can select chart, and I get a chart which I can then add indicators to. I can right mouse click and go Insert Analysis Technique. And I can have it plot things like volume. Okay, you can see there's no volume on this chart, so we can begin by adding volume. And say OK. And now we have volume on there. I can right mouse click and go Insert Analysis Technique and add in the pivot trend line indicator that I have given you. This is a great indicator. It helps us see pullback lines for that strategy. So where is it here? Pivot trend line right there. Say OK. And you want that set left strength 4, right strength 3. For 3, if you're on a 13-minute chart, then you want this set to 6 days. 5 days back plus today is 6 days. Say OK. Now that'll make this little line appear down here with no indicator in it. Just take that out. And you can size your different screens like this. Now what I'm going to do is make this a 13-minute chart. You can just type 13-minute. If you look up here, I've just typed 13-minute, click enter, and now it's got a 13-minute chart. And now you can see that there's these little lines drawn. Those are lines of support and resistance that are drawn across inflection points or pivots. Now if I right mouse click and go Insert Analysis Technique, I can insert pivot high, pivot low. Go find it here. It's a show me study. Sorry, that's why I can't find it. So there's pivot high and pivot low. Say OK. Now for my high, I want left strength set to 4, right strength set to 3. I want the style. I like to use the little plus sign. So they call that a cross. And for pivot high, I like that to be red. Good. And maybe a little heavier weighting. You can make it more opaque or just see how you can slide that like that. So I sometimes mess around with that a little bit and say OK. And for the pivot low, I also want that across, make it a little bigger. I like to make mine green, so I'm going to go into color and go green and say OK. Did I input 4, 3? No, I did not. So let's go 4, 3. Good. There, now you can see that there's these lines drawn, and that's what that pivot trend line is using to draw the line. It looks for falling tops and draws a line across it over a 5-day period, or rising bottoms in a 5-day period. So this is the 5-day low, and it draws a line here cutting across the one that makes the trend line the flattest. So if I pull up a different symbol, let's blow this up a little bit here. There you can see all the different trend lines as time passed. So that was the trend line as of that moment. But when this pivot printed, then it drew a new trend line and a new one, and a new one. You can see a whole bunch of different ones. Now, you may only want to see the current trend line, not going back and looking at all the historical ones. So if I right mouse click and then go Format Analysis Technique and go into the pivot trend line indicator and go Format, in here where it says history, it says yes right now. I'm going to change that to no. And now it only shows the current one. So if I pull up Potash Corp, and I can see the current trend lines, and in this case it's just a horizontal line at the high and the low. Let's try another one here. We'll do, I don't know, IBM. I'm just randomly pulling up symbols. So it takes the low point of the last 5 days and it draws the line across the next pivot, high or low. And if it's on the current day, then it's going to use a horizontal line at the high or low. All right, so that's how that pivot trend line works. Now, if we go back into my screen that I've already built, I've input all those things already. All right, so they're all on here. There's the 13-minute chart. And what I recommend you do is build it for one chart and then right mouse click and go copy window, and then go right mouse click, paste window, and you're going to get another screen that's exactly the same. Well, on that one, you can change this one now to a daily chart. Just type in the word daily, and it is now a daily chart. Now, on that point, I would change the setting for some of those indicators. So if I right mouse click on Format Trend Line, it will actually format the pivot trend line indicator. And instead of looking back 6 days, I'm going to tell it to look back 80. You can mess around with what you want. I like 80 for my daily. I like 6 days for the 13-minute, and I like 1 day for the 2-minute. So there's my 2-minute chart. It's just looking at the current day. Those are all things that you can do inside the settings of that indicator. So on each chart, you want to put on the pivot up, pivot down, the pivot trend line indicator, and I usually add in the message candle indicator and the action candle indicator. So again, right mouse click, go insert analysis technique, and let's go into the 2-minute here, go insert analysis technique, and I could add in message candle, which is under show me, I believe. There it is, right? I could add in message candle. I could add in the action candle indicator. Action candle input is the one you're going to have. Now I've already done that. And so you can see there's little white dots and little pink dots on there. Let's pull up Potash Corp. And any little white dot is a message candle. A pink dot is an action candle. So usually what I do is on the 2-minute chart, I plot the message candle. On the 13-minute chart, I plot the action candle. And so you can see here, there's little pink dots there. That's the action candle. Now, if you find it too small to read, these ones are pretty tiny, just right mouse click on it. And you got to get really precise and click on the indicator. So there it says Format Action Candle, and go into your style and increase the weight, and then say OK. And now the pink dot's got a little bigger. Okay, and of course you can also resize the window of doing things like this. And now you can really see those pink dots show up. You can see the little plus pivots and the green ones for the lows, that sort of thing. So that's how we set up our charts. And mess around with it, see what you like. As I said, for the 2-minute chart, I like to have the trend line set to 1 day, and I like my pivots at 4 and 3, 4 left, 3 right, and I like the message candle indicator. On my 13-minute, I like the action candle and the 4-3 trend line as well. And then on the daily, I usually put both the action candle and the message candle and my pivot trend lines. All right, and you can see that all those things are there. All right, so once you've built all that, you are now set to go. What you want to do before you do anything else is save your workspace. So go File, Save Workspace As, give it a name, where we're going to save it, and I call mine my Active Scanner window. And now you're ready to use it on a regular basis. And then you also want to save your desktop. A desktop is a collection of workspaces. So you have workspaces within a desktop. So once your desktop is built and you save it, you've got a bunch of workspaces in there. Those should also be saved. Now you can do your process. So what is the process? Pretty simple. Run your gainer scan. Grab all the stocks that it finds. Copy them. Paste them into the radar screen that has your number of trades. Sort by number of trades. And grab any stock that is over your threshold as of that moment. Now, market is closed right now as I do this, so my threshold is 10,000. So I'm going to grab all of the gainers that have traded at least 10,000 times. And I just grab one, hold down the shift key, and just keep going until I get to 10,000. I went a little far there. So I don't know if this will work. There we go. So that's all the stocks that have traded at least 10,000 times. And then I can either go Control C for copy, or I can right mouse click and go copy. And then go into this radar screen, which is going to calculate for action candles. Okay, so this will take a moment, and but what it's going to do now is it's going to calculate for action candles on all these symbols. There's quite a few. There's 463. In the morning, it's far less. Now, I'm not going to wait for that to happen because it'll take too long. If you're doing like 100 or 150, it takes maybe 10 seconds. But when you're doing 463, it takes longer. Any stock that has an action candle goes on your watch list. You're going to copy those and move those to another radar screen where you monitor your stock. So I'm actually going to open up another workspace here. And I've got a radar or a workspace called Active Watch already built. And this will just take a second to load. Here it is. And this is where you can then drop in your watch list. So if I found, let's say these stocks had action candles on them. They don't, but let's just pretend. And then I drop them in here. And now I'm going to be able to monitor those on another time frame. We'll get to that in just a moment. Now, the other reason a stock can get on a watch list, there's two reasons. One, it can have an action candle, a bullish action candle. Two, it can have abnormal volume. So if I grab all of the stocks that are on pace to trade at least 15,000 times a day, we're going to go down to 15,000 right about here, copy those, and paste them in this radar screen, which calculates for abnormal volume. So give this a moment. What you're going to see is a number print here. You can see 1.15. Anything greater than 1.95 is statistically significant and abnormal. Now again, the market is closed right now, so these values match. 1.15, 1.15. During the trading day, this number will be bigger than this number because the expected abnormal volume takes the current amount of volume and extrapolates it to the end of the day. And so it says, okay, if we have 1,000 trades so far today, that means by the end of the day it's going to be 10,000, and is that abnormal or not? And then it calculates a value. So if we look at DFT, for example, it's got a value here of 5.35. Now, if I go show you the chart for that stock, you will see DuPont fiber, or whatever it is. You can see that the volume is very, very abnormal compared to normal days. That's what we want. We want those kind of stocks on our watch list. This one also made an action candle on the opening 13-minute bar. So it has all the things that we like to see on this particular setup. So that would be a stock I would put on my watch list. I'd come over to my active watch and I would make sure DFT is on the list. Now what I can do is from the active scanner, I can sort this by expected abnormal volume and grab anything that's traded above 2 or above 1. You decide what the threshold is. 1 is a minimum, the higher the better. So there are 19 stocks that on Friday, I'm doing this on the weekend, on Friday were trading abnormally, and those were stocks that I would then put on my watch list. All right, so I think that's pretty much how you build your watch list. Let's now talk about the actual rules. What we want is we want stocks that are trading abnormally, so they either have an action candle or are trading abnormal volume, and then we want them to have a 2-minute message candle that breaks the trend line, breaks the pullback line. So this is where we use these indicators. So I've built a radar screen here. This is a 2-minute radar screen, and you add in these 3 indicators: price test 1, price test 2, price test 3. What those do is they're basically the same as a message candle. They're just a message candle for radar screen. We can put a message candle on the chart, or we can use this price test indicator for in radar screen. Now, if you right mouse click on this and go format, what you'll see is that the abnormal test is set to open minus close. That is what a message candle looks for. How tall is the body of the candle, which is the difference between the open and the close. I can actually change this. I could say close minus the close of 1 bar ago, and that would calculate the difference from the current bar's close to the previous bar's close to look for a candle that made a really big price jump from one candle to the next. But that's not what we're going to do here. We're going to do is open minus close. I'll cancel that so it doesn't save anything. And then what we watch for are stocks that make a price test value of greater than 0.5, because that means there is a message candle on that chart. So if I go to Pandora, P here, it's got a value of 0.65 right now. If we go look at the chart of Pandora, and I'm going to zoom in on this so you can see the detail. So this is the 2-minute chart, and you can see that there is barely see it, there's a white dot there on that candle. That is the message candle indicator being triggered. And that tells me that Pandora made a message candle on that current bar. Now notice that there is a white dot on the previous candle as well. And again, that's super tiny. Let's try to blow that up a little bit. Let's make that a little bit bigger. There, it's a little bigger, not great still. All right, so I've got those white dots in those candles on the current candle and on the candle of 1 bar ago. Now, if we go look at this radar screen for Pandora, you can see that the value on the current candle, which is price test 1, is 0.65. On price test 2, which is the candle 1 ago, it is 1.24. And even 2 candles ago, we have a value of 0.91. That's why there's a white dot there as well. So the white dot will print anytime there is a value here greater than the input value, which I have set to 0.5. You can see their significance is set to 0.5. If I was to change this to 1 and say OK, now you will see that, no, not on this one. If I was to change this to a value of 1, say OK, you will see that the white dot disappeared for some of those candles, and it's only on this one because that's the only one that had a value greater than 1. So again, if I go into Pandora, you can see that this was 0.65, which is this candle. This was 1.24, which is this candle, and that's the one that's got the white dot. Now again, if I right mouse click on this, go Format, and set this to 0.5, you'll see the white dots appear again on those other candles. Something went wrong here. I think I clicked on the wrong thing. Format P. I don't want to format the stock. I want to format the symbol. Format message candle. Look back. I said look back to 0.5. That's not what I want. Look back should be 0. Threshold should be 0.5. See how easy it is to make a mistake? Now say OK. There. See, now the white dots are on all of those candles because all of those candles had a value for those indicators of greater than 0.5. So your job through the trading day is to watch for things. What I do is I sort mine from highest to lowest, watch for stocks that have a value of greater than 0.5. And if they do, click on it and look to see if the candle is breaking the pullback line, which is your pivot trend line indicator that you have put on your chart. So let's zoom out on this a little bit and think about when the stock broke a trend line with a message candle. And I'm going to use an example that I know did it. And I'm also going to turn on this historical. Remember earlier we turned off historical? I'm going to turn it back on. So right now you can see history is set to no. I'm going to turn that on to yes, just so that we can see when these lines were broken. All right, so there you have it. There was our trend line there. And there was a message candle that was above my trend line, and therefore it triggers an entry alert. So that is when we had an entry alert on Potash Corp. You can then draw your risk reward lines. There you go. Okay. Now, one of the rules of the strategy, which is a little bit different than it used to be, is that you want your message candle to not only be above the trend line, but to also be a 3-candle high. In other words, the close of the message candle needs to be greater than the high of the last 3 candles. And you're going to see, I think, that candle didn't satisfy that rule. Oh, maybe it did. Yeah, no, it did. It's okay. So the close of that candle was there. And if we count back 3, 1, 2, 3, the highest point in the last 3 was there. So that was a valid entry point because we closed above the high of the last 3 candles and we are above the trend line. Now, the one other rule I like to use is that I don't want to break the trend line that is more than, say, 20 candles since the trend line was broken. So the trend line was broken there. We count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is the 10th candle after. You can experiment a little bit. The idea is that you don't want to chase a stock. You don't want to be buying it up here when the trend line was broken way back here. Okay, so we want to make sure we buy a message candle that's relatively near the break of the pullback. The stock went up, it pulled back, it broke the pullback. That's when we want to buy it and draw our risk reward lines in on that point, like so. Go to the last inflection point low for our support, and there we have our inflection point, or pardon me, our risk reward lines as the stock marched higher. You can see this trade worked out quite nicely. It was better than 10 to 1, 11 to 1 even. Okay, so that's the process. Let's just walk through it one more time. You scan the market for gainers, grab those that are liquid enough using our trades threshold, paste those into either window, into this one to calculate for abnormal volume, or in this one to look for action candles. Build your watch list. Put your watch list on a screen that has a 2-minute interval radar screen that looks for the price test on 3 different lookbacks. And then monitor the list for message candles. When there is a message candle, look at the chart and ask yourself, is this a break of the trend line, up or down? So we had a pullback line, we get an upside break, message candle, that would be a buy signal. You always want to take the first one that breaks the trend line. So this stock, for example, there was a trend line, there was a message candle breaking the pullback line. Draw our reward for risk lines in there. This one didn't really work. It went up 1 RR and then it rolled over and penetrated support. So if you had your stop at -1 or -1.3, you would have been stopped out on this trade. All right. I think that's about all I need to cover. I've just got some notes here to make sure I'm not missing anything. Now, of course, we do have other videos. I'll trade live in the active live. You'll see me do this in real market conditions, and that's probably the best way to learn. Once you've got your screen set up, you're ready to start doing that, but realize it takes some practice, and if you watch me do it in active live, then you'll be able to see it time and time again repeated and get a good sense of how to do the process. So once you've done all that, make sure you save your workspaces, make sure you save your desktop so that when you open up TradeStation again, you don't have to rebuild all this stuff. That's a lot of work. So, all right. That is about all. Let's just jump back into here. We've gone through the rules, the process. I think we're done. So thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed this update video on the intraday pullbacks. The concept is more or less the same for the superheroes as well. These indicators will work just as well to find the superhero setups. A little bit of upgrading in the rules. Hope you enjoyed it. And as I always like to say, trade well.